Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel, and as we can see, I am working with a slightly different background. Now that is because I am still currently moving into my new place. So this is the temporary and makeshift background that I have been able to cobble together out of the things that I actually have in my new place. I'm hoping once I get all my bookshelves, now I don't have huge beautiful bookshelves like some people, but I have some quirky little things that hopefully will be presenting themselves once I get everything set up. But let us dive into the book of the moment, and it is the Grimoire Grammar School Parent-Teacher Association. Now, isn't that a mouthful? It is by Caitlin Rozakis, who came across my radar when I read her book Dreadful, which is right here. Anyway. So I read Dreadful, and it was quirky and fun, and it had a wizard, I think wizard/sorcerer, who had lost his memory, and as he kind of gained bits and pieces, actually he really never gained bits and pieces of it back, he just kind of had to relearn everything, but he kind of learned that he was a bad guy, and he had done some pretty crappy things, and now, as he is literally kind of a new person, he doesn't really want to be that person anymore. He kind of enjoys being a little bit of a better person because all his little minions are terrified of him because apparently he used to explode them, but now he doesn't want to do that. And he had kidnapped a princess, but now he really doesn't want to have her kidnapped. He doesn't want to kidnap her. So he's kind of got a little bit of self-reflection to do, but that is Dreadful. Now, this one I picked up because I enjoyed that one and I thought that was really a lot of fun. So let's dive into the summary. Two parents and their recently bitten werewolf daughter try to fit into a privileged New England society of magic aristocracy, but deadly terrors await them. Ancient prophecies, remorseless magical trials, hidden conspiracies, and the PTA bake sale. When Vivian's kindergartner, Aria, gets bitten by a werewolf, she is rapidly inducted into the hidden community of magical schools. Reeling from their sudden move, Vivian finds herself having to pick the right sacrificial dagger for Aria, keep stocked up on chew toys, and play PTA politics with sirens and chthonic nymphs and people who literally can set their hair on fire. As Vivian careens from hellhounds in the school corridors and demons at the talent show, she races to keep up with the arcane secrets of her new society. Shops only accessible by magical portal, the brutal trials to enter high school, and the eternal inferno that is the parents' WhatsApp group. And looming over everything is a prophecy of doom that sounds suspiciously like it's about Aria. Vivian might be facing the end of days just as soon as she can get her daughter dressed and out the door. So, again, I thought it was fun. It's lighthearted, and I don't think that I have read a chosen one, and I put that in quotation marks because I'm not trying to spoil anything too much here, but from the perspective of the parents having to deal with the ramifications of their child all of a sudden gaining superpowers, or supernatural powers, I should say. It would be like if Spider-Man's Aunt May and Uncle Ben all of a sudden knew that Spider-Man was Spider-Man, and now we're having to hear his story from their perspective of going through high school. How do we make sure he has enough spandex to make his costumes, etc., etc. But we're not talking about the Marvel Universe. We are talking about Vivian and her 5-year-old Aria. So Vivian and Aria kind of like they were walking in the woods. They were just kind of on a little nature walk. And that's when Vivian and Aria were more or less attacked by a werewolf. Aria was bitten. Vivian had no idea what to do, but fairly quickly she found herself with a slightly mangled body of a 5-year-old that is knitting itself back together, as well as this pack of werewolves who suddenly show up to help Vivian figure out what to do next. So they pretty much tell her, hey, look, it seems as though your daughter is going to be a werewolf. So sorry about that, like, rando dude that just, did this whole situation. He wasn't right in the head. We're going to take care of him. It's fine. But hi, welcome to the supernatural neighborhood. So Vivian is she's absolutely reeling because now she's got to move. Her and her husband both have to move to a place to be closer to a magical school that Arya can attend because no one wants a werewolf toddler. I don't know, is a 5-year-old still a toddler? Maybe. I don't really know at what age they stop being toddlers, but she's 5, so she's a hooligan. And nobody wants them wolfing out in kindergarten. Or biting their neighbor friends. That would be terrible, right? So she's got to go to a special school where they're at least a little bit better prepared for this sort of thing to happen. So off they go to join this community that Vivian and her husband can not really afford because Vivian is had her quit her job in order to, I guess, better monitor Arya because Arya's a little bit more unpredictable at this particular point. I don't know if werewolf cubs... Sorry, my leg is going to sleep. I am sitting on the floor, yes. So I'm going to sit more like a stretch. But Vivian is now having to monitor her daughter a little bit more. And so that's a source of income that they don't have. Her husband is doing his best, but things are really tight in the household, and Vivian is finding that she's got to pick up a lot of special equipment for Arya as they're in this new school. There is sacrificial daggers, and I guess you could kind of say a magical school shopping trip. Many of us are familiar with the concept of getting a letter and finding out, well, okay, maybe we didn't receive letters, but that's okay. But you got a list of things that you kind of need for school. And so I know when I was going through school, before, either the first day of class or over summer, they would send a list. These are the things they need to show up with. And it's not an inexpensive list. So now they're kind of hemorrhaging money a little bit. Also, it seems like everybody in this magical aristocracy kind of seems to be rolling in money. Like there's a siren who of course can make people do what they want them to do, and there's some nymphs, and then there's a couple other people like that. Now, for the most part, Arya seems to be one of the few werewolf cubs currently present in the school. So, though people are not unfamiliar with werewolves, they are still wary of werewolves. And so that's kind of one of the bigger things about it. And again, she's in kindergarten, and Vivian is finding out that there are different trials, almost like talent shows, but even in these talent shows, they're getting scouted for the next level in their education. So even in kindergarten, now they don't have to do it every year, but in kindergarten they kind of get scouted, and then in a couple other grades they get scouted to make sure that they're fairly talented individuals. So that's Vivian's worried because she doesn't know how to help Arya prepare for a talent show when it's kind of a bit of a mandatory sort of thing. There's also like a science fair thing that they're going to have to do in order to prove that they're studying. So that was kind of a fun one as well. Now, at this particular talent show, I will say that things get a little hairy. A demon may or may not get loose, and there are some perhaps hellhounds lurking about that just happen to prevent Arya from having to compete this year. Let's just put it like that. But Vivian starts to find out that as she's been participating with the Parent Teacher Association, the PTA, that they're leaving her out. She has been almost dropped from the WhatsApp group because Vivian's mortal, and a lot of these other parents are supernatural beings. So there seems to be a bit of discrimination not only against the fact that she is a mortal, normal person, and I say normal with, I should definitely put big quotes around that because how many of us are really normal? Like, really? But she doesn't have those supernatural abilities, and her daughter is a little bit of a live firecracker. I'm not saying she's bitten everybody, but she's not also fitting in super well because she doesn't have her powers under control. She's 5, so she does start working with the werewolf pack in order to better harness her, I guess, werewolfish energies, and yet things just kind of go as they will. I definitely, I really enjoyed it. I do not have any kids, so I think it was a little bit harder for me to associate with Vivian because, I mean, I have puppies that if they turned into werewolves, I would be incredibly shocked because would a human have to bite a dog to turn it into a werewolf? I'm just, posing the question here. But anyway, super fun. The characters are very interesting, and I like the perspective because, like I said, I don't think I have read a book like this from the parents' perspective of a normal mortal person having to figure out how to navigate supernatural waters when their child is the one who actually has those kind of supernatural abilities. So that was kind of a fresh take on things. We're used to seeing maybe the kid who's coming into their powers, who's having to learn how to harness those powers, this, that, and the other. But we don't often see what the parents have to go through. So I thought that was quite interesting. It is pretty cozy. It is pretty heartwarming. I don't want to say super low stakes because, we've got some darker forces roaming around on the edges and kind of in between the lines of the pages. There's a little bit of a kind of history that we have to unravel in order to figure out what this prophecy really means. Is it really about Arya? Does it just sound like that? Because I don't know if you know anything about prophecies, and I don't know if I know anything about prophecies, but from the very small non-Googling that I did and just digging into the recesses of my brain, prophecies only really make sense after the fact. And then they're frequently so broad that they could apply to quite a few different things. I want to say like Nostradamus. Nostradamus was a guy who had some prophecies, and people have, in hindsight, been able to apply them to various things in history. And now, of course, there's still prophecies that I don't think have been resolved. There's also, was it Edgar Cayce, who was somebody who made some prophetic predictions, who may or may not have, like, in hindsight, applied to various events in history. But again, prophecies aren't very clear until almost after they've come to fruition. So is this prophecy about Arya? I guess you'll have to find out. But now, one particular person that I follow on Goodreads, her name is Jamie, she said that this book is basically Harry Potter meets Pink Glass Houses. I don't know what Pink Glass Houses is, but I am pretty interested in finding out what that is. So I'm going to click the link that it takes me to. And it says that Pink Glass Houses is a seductive social satire about the wealthy PTA mom of an elite elementary school in Miami Beach. It's Big Little Lies and Pineapple Street, but with diamonds, tans, and a glass of rosé. So it's by Asha Elias. And so that one actually looks kind of good. I don't know. I may have to put that. Now that looks maybe a little, I don't know if it's cozy, but it says it's fiction and it's chick lit. So it could be fun. So I don't know, but there's another one if you're interested in anything about a PTA. I don't think I have ever picked up a book about a parent-teacher association. I have, when I was in school, I was always super eager to go to them because I was one of those kids who, I was a teacher's pet. I would sometimes not want to go to recess because I would just stay behind and I don't know, grade papers for the teacher or short shelve things. I don't know. I was a weird child. I was also kind of introverted in that way. But I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? I think Dreadful was probably a little bit. I liked it a little bit better, but it's not discounting this one. And I will probably see if my mom wants to read this one. She liked Caitlin Rozakis' Dreadful, so I will probably recommend that she read this one as well. Like, what if I had had supernatural powers when I was coming up in school? How would she have acted and reacted? Because I know we didn't have just a ton of money to be throwing around at sacrificial daggers either. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. And I'm going to let you guys decide if this is a book that you are interested in. I promise it's just fun, it's cozy, it's pretty lighthearted, fictional fantasy, paranormal, and a little bit of urban fantasy as well. So if any of that sounds up your alley, then maybe give it a chance and see what you think. But with all of that, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed already, I hope you will consider it. And I will see you all on the next page. I hope you have a great one.